That's the exact reaction I want everybody to have when they hear that song. It's
What
so
a
good,
groove,
right?
man. That was fat. Who was that?
David Northrop. He was
I'm
on
a
a few
embarrassed. I'm
episodes ago.
unfamiliar.
He gave us his blessing to put it on the show, and
Killer.
everyone has the same reaction. So, welcome to DrumQuig Podcast, episode 10. I'm
Thanks
Matt,
for
and I'm
having
here
me.
with a good buddy of mine. Jordan and I we met in a Starbucks of all places, circa 2014.
I'm trying to think how far back that was. It's got to be 2013, 2014. Like I was
It
just
was
in between tours.
Yeah, it was July. It was July 2014 is when I started training at the job I had, and that's
There
where
it
I was
is.
at my Starbucks. So,
Yep.
that's so. Welcome to the show, man. Thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Dude, thanks for having me. This is rad. I'm pretty stoked.
So, the meeting itself, the funniest part was I remember sitting there and I ordered a drink, and I looked over and I just saw, and I was like, oh
With the
wait, I was
Sharpie.
like, he knows. I was like, he knows. And that's how we ended up becoming friends. And here we are 10 years later doing this show. Almost 10 years
Still
to the
doing
day.
it.
Like that's pretty wild, man.
Yeah, we're about a month out. I think I owe you a hug at this point.
Hey, you
You
did
know.
buy me a beer last month. Well,
It's
or
my
2
pleasure.
months ago when you were down. So,
Good. You deserve it.
dude, you've been in so many bands. We were gonna get to all that. Dark Sermon, Otis Archer. I know there's the one that I'm never gonna remember, the Denham guys, because that was
Don
his
Denham in the cutoffs, baby.
Denham in the cutoffs.
His catchphrase. Yeah, it's like the jeans spelled different.
It's like John Coffey.
Is the best.
Oh, that's fantastic. So, like jumping right into it, like why drums? We always ask everybody why drums, and I feel like for most of us, we just were fidgety. Like we were just like, this works for me. This works for what I'm doing. So, like, where did you start? Where did you get into this?
Yeah, I mean, as every typical drummer story, it's when I was a kid, I had pots and pans. Well, yeah, duh. But one of the best, like, I want to say I was 2 or 3 years old. There's some family footage of me going when my to date my parents. It's a very 90s front yard with a croquet set, and I would go take at the end you've got the arc to whatever goal that you poorly set up because you're already day drinking. It's croquet in the 90s. I would take the whatever the stick or whatever you call the thing at the end to keep the ball from rolling. I take not the mallet. Like when it's at the end of the goal or whatever. I'd walk around and I'd bang them together, but I'd be banging in perfect time. And like as I grew up, it was always patting on as we do. We don't sit still. No. I still can't for the life of me. Neither can my son. But
I literally have drumsticks within arm's reach, usually somewhere in the house. So
mine are on the coffee table. I can see from here. I'm not getting up, but yeah. Anyway, it was just playing on everything. And then my cousin Wayne, he growing up being a drummer, being in bands, being in drumline, all that kind of stuff. It was always nice to be around drums. My best friend, Scott Spaziano, always had a drum set in his house, and he was the one that introduced me to my drum teacher and now mentor for life, John Spinelli. And also listening to music. I grew up with my dad being obsessed with rock and roll, and his favorite band was Led Zeppelin, but he also loved Sting. So of course, Vinnie Colaiuta was part of my life, right? And my grandma, being the jazz head that she was, always emphasized how important Dave Brubeck was, and how not only Time Out but Take 5 is just one of the greatest things in the history of drums. And growing up, it was yes, grandma, okay, grandma. And then getting into high school, I was like, oh, she's onto something. And then I got older and I started studying, and then I started teaching, and was like, all right, this woman gave me some of the greatest advice and some of the greatest albums I've ever heard in my life. But it was just, I don't know. Plus, drums look cool, man. Like you're sitting behind a drum kit, you look cool. It's the best seat in the house, or whatever other cliches there are. But man, they're just
the only guy who gets to sit down,
Dude, it's the best. I spend the whole time. I'm like, what are you guys so tired for? I feel great.
It's so funny you brought up Sting, because I know Synchronicity's 40th anniversary just passed.
Yep.
Just a couple of days ago, and that was a staple album in my house, and I did not, to this day, I still don't fully appreciate Stuart Copeland, because everything he did, you're like, all right, man, I got this figured out, and then you try to play it and you go,
no, you don't.
I do not have this figured out. And just little things he did that didn't make sense then that make sense now, in a sense, like filling in those little gaps. And like you said, Vinny playing, and I would have loved to have seen Vinny play.
And also my dad was a big Dave Matthews guy, so
Oh, Carter.
Carter,
Yeah.
I understood. Wait a minute, it's okay to put your right on the left, and then you always grow up with the drum set where you have the bass,
Yeah.
the hi hat, and the toms, and after a while you're like, these are Legos. This isn't a Rector set. These are just I can put them where I want. And maybe in me, I was raised by two lefties. I was raised to be a lefty, but instinctually I'm a righty. So I've always been not ambidextrous, but like there's certain things I do better with different sides of my body. Where yes, I write with my right hand. But I brush with my left hand. I eat lefty. I don't throw lefty, but I can catch righty and lefty, which I think you should be able to do anyway, to be honest. I mean, if something's going on.
Exactly.
But drumming, it never made sense to cross my hands. I always thought that was dumb, and I don't instinctually sit and do this. So seeing Carter, that was one of the, and he and Simon Phillips were some of the first dudes I ever saw and was like, hold on. I'm going to just grab because, the tripods, you just grab your one cymbal stand, move it over, and it was like
you're like the one you have. You're like
one. You move the cymbal, just a bit, and that was like when I was little. So I'm talking like I don't know, like 9, which isn't like 5 years old little, but still like it's when you get into the meat and potatoes of drumming, everyone's either match grip or traditional. You're either righty or lefty, or you're either double pedal or double bass. It's like there doesn't have to be the defining line. I just like blind open because there's not this happening ever.
This is natural to me.
Yeah.
Even though I'm a righty.
But that's how you play.
But I should be like this.
Yep.
But I
should
like the
be,
left
sure.
hand. Yeah. Well, and
I should have one bass drum, but grow up.
Listen, we're not on Portnoy, and we've got 3 or 4. I think he's gonna break out 4. Just bring out a bunch. Like
I feel like if he's doing the Siamese monster, he'll sneak in a 4th. But we'll see. Time will tell, babe.
He's doing something new, dude. I'm excited. We talked about it on one of the last shows where I'm like, I think this is the end for them. I think this is their farewell. Like bringing Mike back, and I saw the pictures of you getting to meet him just a couple months ago. Or
dude, so sick. So sick. Like I initially met him in Seminole Music back when it was the Punk Nation tour, 2008, 2009. I don't remember. You were there. But in Seminole Music, he did a signing, and I got to say hi to him then, which was cool. But just being, oh hey man, you're like my biggest influence.
I have goosebumps right now because I was there, and I went with my buddy, and they were like, "Don't touch Mike," and I was like, because he was in front of that glass case doing the signing.
But how else are you going to steal his talent? That's how Space Jam taught us well.
He just gave me what you do. One drumstick. I could have done
it.
And I remember I handed the camera to my buddy, and I go, "Dude, on the count of 3, I just need you to take this picture."
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, "Okay." And Mike signing my stuff. I still have my poster signed, the In Constant Motion poster.
Dude, mine was the insert from oh god, what was the one?
Was it
Scenes? He did a Hudson DVD that was like 3 discs. It was like
the In Constant Motion, or he did that one. That was the great one because he did. I'm looking it up now because I know I don't want to say
I'm embarrassed. It's not hanging up in front of me. Like knowing, and it's funny. He signed his signature under his signature that's already like printed on it, so it looks like a redundant stamp because it was also a silver like printed signature, and then the Sharpie under it was more shiny.
It was definitely this.
Yeah. Where you learn how to play Panic Attack and
yeah. So that's the one
I still know that song. Note for friggin' note. Excuse me. Note for dang note. Because of that DVD.
Funny enough, in 2005, that album came out June 7th. And then As I Lay Dying's Shadows of Security came out the next week. And both tracks number 5 had that, and I was like, "Oh,
you're allowed to do that!" Ah! Yeah.
But so I'm there, and I have him sign. Dude, that's so funny. Like the fact that we didn't know we were both there. It was the same one because he didn't do a lot, and it was at Seminole.
Nope.
And I told my buddy, I said, on the count of 3, I said, just take the picture. It was 1, 2, and I literally leapt across the glass counter. I put my arm around him, took the picture. He just looked at me, and he was like, "No." I was like, "I'm sorry." I was like 18 years old. Leave me alone.
Yeah, I was going to say, it was between senior year of high school and freshman year of college, I think. So it was summer of 08.
Yeah, I was going to say, it had to have been 08 because then when they came in 09.
Mm-hmm.
That
which
was
was
the
also
last.
dope.
That was the only time I got to see them play with him.
Yeah.
Everything after that's been Mangini, and I remember seeing him the second time, and this guy sits down behind me, and this ties into what we were talking about before the show. And everybody sits down, and all of a sudden they're all standing up and they're getting pictures with the guy directly behind me, and I'm like, why? Like, yeah, it's a cool denim jacket, but I mean,
Yeah.
you're not that cool. And all of a sudden I turn around and it's Chris Jericho. He's literally sitting behind me.
Yeah.
And I wait till he's done talking. And I turn around and I go, hey, Miss Jericho. I said, I don't mean to bother you. I said, but, you were a huge part of my childhood growing up. We watched wrestling. Thank you for everything. That's it. Halfway through the show, Mangini starts a drum solo and he's doing his and then he starts doing the head scratch and he's doing the finger. And it's literally just the one. And I'm getting tapped on the shoulder. And I look at my buddy and he goes, and his face is white. And he just goes, he points and Jericho's screaming behind me.
Oh, yeah.
Hitting all the high notes behind me. I got a picture with him at the end. It was so cool. But man,
rocking.
Yeah. Wow. That was a first. Like, I was almost speechless there for a minute. I was like, we were at the same drum clinic. Like, we were at the same.
Dude, it was great. Like that. I mean, growing up, we had Seminole Music and Sound as an entity. Like people call it a music store, people call it a music school. To me, that was home away from home. Like that. Well, the first time I ever skipped class was to go to Seminole Music and go play drums. Like I realized, I don't really this math stuff, this calculators. I got a drum. I got to go. I need sticks anyway.
Which we never did. Anyone who's a drummer, comment on this if I'm wrong. You will buy sticks just to buy sticks. You're like, yeah, I need these. Yeah, these will go real good. And
you've touched them. Yeah. Your brain's just like, well,
that was the Sam Ash rule. You're like, no, don't play with those, or you're buying them. And I'm like,
that's the other part because having Seminole, like that was where I grew up going to lessons where I bought basically everything other than Sam Ash if they had it in the moment because it's a K-pop tree. They were huge. But Seminole having, all the drum clinics, all the signings, all the like anyone that mattered in drums and anyone that had some either sort of a gig or recording situation or anything around, they'd always go through there and I'd be there for all of it. Always. And like I played my first clinic at Seminole. It absolutely incredible. Like that was one of my favorite nights and one of my favorite parts of that store.
Were you there for Derek Roddy too?
It was me, Derek Roddy, and Scott Spaziano.
I was there that day too. Pictures of I just remember him. I think Roddy did more than one there. I kind of feel like he did.
He'd probably done 3 or 4, to be honest. Derek, being Derek, and he's also, Florida boy, it didn't take much for him to drive over there and go hang out and blast for however long. And people ask, how do you do that? How do you play fast? And,
I just remember watching him and going, it's the first time I had seen that in person.
Oh, yeah. That's
I was
heavy.
like, because growing up, you heard a blast beat. And if you didn't know any better, and everyone taught you a blast beat is how fast you can do this together.
Mm-hmm.
And then you learn that it's not together, that it's the alternating that makes it that much better.
I was going to say, for me, because I like hammer blasting, that's great. That's, it's literally, you've got these guys in sync, which is tight. Cannibal Corpse, right? Thank them for that. But like, growing up with like Behemoth and a lot of Inferno happening, there was a change in the way that people played. And, once music started getting faster and things started changing and you discover, Skank Beat is just fast polka. There's very important pieces of what drumming was to where it is now and how people just took a metronome and were like, okay, here's a beat. So instead of polka, 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 you've got blah, 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 blah. It's how we do. It's
last beat's the same again right after that.
You're welcome. Anyone watching this, you're welcome. Any skank class is just fast polka. It's my pleasure.
Fast polka. Oh man,
fast polka.
Dude, that's funny. So talk about like what it was like to do your first clinic after growing up, getting everything there. Like, was there like an emotional moment where you were just like,
dude, I just got goosebumps thinking about it. Loading in, I cried. I got to be honest. Like walking in the same store I grew up buying from, learning from, hanging out, that whatever it was, that was home away from home to me. And then going to load my drums and to play there and to have the same floor that I got to see like Ray Luzier, Carmine Appice, John Funky Blackwell, like all, rest his soul, Dom Famularo. I got to hang out with him a couple times when he played there. There's very important people that were in and out of that store that got, and of course there's guitar players and bass players, and they were great too, but I'm a drummer, so I'm not talking about the guys that slept in. So for my like heart and soul, it meant the world to be there. But honestly, it meant even more to have Scott Spaziano share that clinic with me. And I mean, obviously to be there with Derek, he started off as one of my heroes, became one of my peers, which shout out to Derek. Very good to see him at NAMM this year. That was tight. Very happy also to see Axis have a resurgence, because we've been shredding those pedals for a while, and they're good people. But to bring it back, going in and being able to learn so much in one place and then give back and teach, and to take a drumming community that may have known me as a kid sitting in the back, or maybe heard me just obnoxiously blasting on something, waiting for a clinic to start, to be one of those guys sitting up there and then actually have, respected questions as if I was on tour. And I didn't just drive from my mom's house 15 minutes up the street, because I lived very close to Park Boulevard at the time. Or like having my practice space off Starkey, which, another 12 minutes up to get there. It was awesome. And just great night. And I got to meet Rustin that night, which, another Florida boy, another D drummer, Hattie. But just, oh man, it was so good. And it meant a lot to see, I call him Spaz. His name's Scott Spaziano. Obviously Spaz is the coolest way you can say that.
I couldn't have figured that one out. That was too complicated there.
It's my pleasure. But to have like him show me how drums worked, introduce me to his drum teacher, and then the two of us be able, because he was playing with Orb Weaver at the time. And also back, we had a different drum brand we were playing, but we were both playing the same one at the time. So that was pretty cool. And to just have all of that, like meat and potatoes, all the values from growing up show in one room with all the drummers there, everyone getting to hang out. And also like Casey Grillo, another Tampa guy, another good friend, watched his clinics, watched him in Camelot, took some lessons, and then go figure, you start getting on tour and then buy drum heads from him enough, you end up being buddies because you see each other so much. And he was able to come out and say hi, and like it was very full circle. It was just a beautiful night. And it really meant everything. And I think that, what they call that, like blast beats, past, present, and future, or something like that. And it was for Drum Month, but yeah, that was amazing. That was a really good time.
Dude, that was fun to watch you go on that journey. Like that was fun to watch you, because as you were telling the story, it was like you were walking through, going through and kind of walking through that whole thing again and reliving all those moments that got you to where you were. So, the easiest question and the hardest question, why metal? Like, what is it about metal that just drove you, that you had to play that and you continue to play that all these years later?
I ask myself all the time, why metal? Why couldn't I just play jazz like everyone else and not break anything? But I don't know. I'll take a couple answers and a couple short answers. So one of them being just pure entertainment value. Just like Jim Carrey says, he heard something that was just and was like, what is this? How do you do that? What are these sounds? And my brain heard, I couldn't even, I'll say Slayer for lack of understanding when I was that little. But I just heard and was like, that's not his hand. How's he doing that? Where's that coming from? How's he doing that? How do I do that? Where do I learn to do that? And like, again, Tampa, hearing Cannibal Corpse for the first time, I was like, ooh, okay. I like this. Because one, it didn't sound like anything, but also I thought what was a drum fill ended up being a whole, blast beats. I thought that was just a quick way to fill in a couple counts. And, Paul sitting back there was like, nah, I keep time like this for an hour. And I was like, all right, I guess this is for me. But, when you're little, you hear different genres of music. You hear go all over the place. My first favorite band was Kiss, surprise, surprise. And going from there, which, no offense, there was a lack of drums because counting to four is timekeeping. But going from there and seeing different creatives and different drummers in different areas. And I think the first big obsession I had after that was, as we all did in '99, we found Linkin Park and we're like, okay, cool. And then somebody showed me Slipknot, and I was like, because again, 2001, I'm 11. I was like,
oh man,
there's 3 drummers. You're allowed to do that? Like, there's 9 of these freaking dudes. And
is that guy playing Tiffany's?
Exactly. And like they put out Iowa, and you're like, all right, something's wrong with every single one of these guys. I love this. I gotta figure
every single one of these guys is a band nerd. I'm intrigued.
And none of these dudes are happy. Like, I need to figure this out. And like, for me, I gripped onto Left Behind. I thought that song was just brutal. The video was gross. I was like, this is sick. This is yes.
I think Wait and Bleed was the first one I can remember.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And that was on a Headbangers Ball CD that I got.
Yep.
And it was the rough version, because what they played on the radio was the clean version, like the clean vocals. And you're like, no, I like the other one, like that.
Yeah, I want where's the mad dude? I don't want the happy dude. That guy didn't have coffee. I want where's the dude that stubbed his toe and they pressed record? I want that guy.
No, we talked some smack about the whole like trying to make it a secret who their new drummer was for this whole thing, and I was like, you guys did a really bad job, like a really bad job.
Well, not only a bad job, but it's like anyone in the industry knew 6 to 8 months ago, but just average music listeners are like, oh, I've seen that broken stick. That's got to be fill in the blank. And it's just like, they're literally spelling it out. Like, if you don't know, you don't know. Yeah. But also, how are you that big of a Slipknot fan and you never got into Sepultura? You know, like, and not that, you know, having Eloy be Mr. Sepultura was the deal, but it's like, he played with them long enough. Should be pretty obvious. And also knowing he and B-Man are so close, it's like, come on.
You're like, hold on.
Do your homework.
Well, it's like, even Jay Weinberg being in the band as long as he was, like,
he had a great tenure, man.
In the band,
very good run.
Like, that's long enough to cement yourself. And I just feel like there's so much more to this story that we're never gonna know.
I wouldn't say never. It's gonna take a while. Never say never, but it's never say never. But yeah,
you know something, you can tell me after the show. You don't have to tell me.
I'll tell you what's on my mind after the show. I don't know much, brother. I hit stuff and it sounds cool.
And that's so. What's your day to day? Like, what are you doing music wise? Because I know you're a big part of the brewery. You know, I got to go out to that event, you know, a couple months ago and got to see, you know, you being in Texas and Florida, you know, we have that divide, but the fact that we were still able to get together. And again,
that was cool. Yeah.
10 years in the making from me seeing this on a Starbucks bench. Like, it's just,
yeah.
And then all the random times I'd run into you over the years would be like, oh,
yeah, go to like Janice or whatever. And I'm like, Wiggins. But yeah, I mean, for day to day, Guitar Center, just Benny releases a stick, so I got to go play it. But I mean, day to day, it's a few things. So, I mean, every day I practice at least 10 minutes, which I know doesn't sound very long, but I treat it kind of like working out, where I spend more quality time than I do putting on a timer and saying, okay, I'll play for 10 minutes. Like, yeah, when the timer goes off, I'm done. But I take at least 10 minutes every day to sit down, just move my hands on a pad to keep sticks in my hands. I have to have sticks in my hands every day. As we know, when we play drums, where's my camera? We all have a callus. We all have something that we have to maintain. When that comes off, it doesn't feel good. So I just try to keep that going, keep my chops up. I love rudiments. I love metronomes. I have 6 metronome apps on my phone. I'm pretty obsessed. It's a, you're welcome. I just got, thank you. Shout out to Foot Blaster, by the way. I just got a couple practice pads for my pedals now, because they make these Foot Blaster kick pads, and it's basically like a yoga mat absorbing like a conditioning material, to where normal kick pads never felt right to me. All through college, I had.
You hit them and you're like, oh,
it's not a drum, and it's like I'd rather just sit and just kick the floor. But college, I had that Gibraltar pad, which was cool because I had 2 single pedals. So I had 2 of those, put on my ankle weights, and I wasn't damaging drum heads. So I was able to build resistance and get that control without breaking anything. But God, they felt terrible and they sounded like crap. But with ankle weights, I had no remorse. So I was like, cool, if they break, they break. I win. But now it's making sure I do that. It's a lot of cognitive listening, because currently I do still play with Don Denham in the Cutoffs, one of my best friends. I love the tunes we got going, just good old rock and roll. I have a new band we just started back in January called Casket. It's old school death metal. No material released yet, but we do have an EP planned for this year. Yes, we have a date. No, I'm not going to say what it is, but just keep your ears on social media. Keep your eyes on social media, and then get your ears ready, because I'm writing a lot of it.
Get your ears on the music.
Turn your ears to your screen. But yeah, that's a good one. And then actually a good buddy of mine, Corey, he has a project called Emerald Wolfen. I've been working with just writing some stuff with him and having some fun. We don't really have any shows planned, but if he wants to get a band together, I'm down to do it. We're just right now having a good time being creative together. But it's a lot of cognitive listening to the things that are already done to keep it fresh in my mind. And then fortunately, I do have an e-kit, so I get to play that 2-3 days a week, and I get 2 days a week to play my drums. Reason being is I choose those 2 days because if I sit down, I want to be able to just let my mind wander for 30 minutes, practice exactly for 30 minutes, and then rehearse for 30 minutes. And what I mean by that is sit down, noodle, doodle, blast, whatever happens. Just spend a half hour just listening to my drums. Sometimes I hear a tom and I hate it. So that 30 minutes is spent tuning, but I allocate for it. Go from there to practicing, meaning I sit and just put on a metronome or something I'm trying to learn or something I've written that I'm like, God, why did I write that? This is hard. And then I go through that, try to get comfortable the best I can, and then spend another 30 minutes rehearsing. And then that's when it's just turn on the click track, the song's playing, and I think about it as if my band were there or I'm on stage or, whatever, just to try to make the most of that time and to get the most out of it. And, reading Benny Grebb's book about effective practicing, it really makes a world of a difference when you plan out what you're doing instead of sitting down, taking a page in your book, looking at it, and then playing Rosanna, and then going back to that page, and you're like, all right.
Jeff Porcaro.
Oh, God, one of the best. But,
man, I just hate like we just got they're taking too soon. Like that one still bothers me because that man was what he did in the 5-6 years. Like it wasn't a lot of time.
Dude, he was drums for a very short amount of time, which I wish it was forever. He recorded with everybody and anybody, and no matter what he did, turned to gold. I mean, it was just amazing.
Yep. That's all I can hear in my head now.
You're welcome.
Like even that, like there's nothing special about that at all, but it was everything he did in between.
I'll say that was special, and it's not to argue with you, but it's to say on the other side of it that like his shuffle was beautiful. It was a perfect groove, but then just his accents alone following it, that's more than what he needed to be doing. He could have just sat and waited and still followed with the melodic cymbal work. And like, those are still things like, and Hold the Line. I carry a lot of that from when I was a kid in my drumming now. And just recently discovered a kick pattern at the end of that song. Didn't realize until I had I have a new car, so I have new speakers, and was like, oh, this is you got to at the end of it. So now I'm, revisiting that, but man.
But I think that's the best part about music is that like we talked about Carter earlier, and I've brought this up before, but like Say Goodbye. You listen to that Hot Rod, the beginning. I've been listening to that for probably 28 years.
About there, yeah.
I still can't play it. I still can't, just even on the pad.
You presently struggle with it. You just can't play it right now, but you will. I know you will.
Getting to see Carter a couple of years ago, and then we got to see him again. So getting to see him twice in the course of 3 years, I was like,
yeah.
Oh, we saw Cindy Blackman the other night with Santana.
Yo, there's another one for Seminole music. She did a clinic in Seminole. God, I was in high school, so that was probably like 05, 06. But dude, seeing her with Santana, what a night.
Dude,
lucky you. Good for you.
Show with a 5-minute drum solo. Ended the show.
That was the send-off, was just Cindy.
Yeah. And Santana's just like pointing back, and obviously that's his wife now, so that's
rightfully so.
No, dude, 5 minutes of just her going to town. And I think they played one song after that, but I was like, the drum solo usually fits into the middle.
It's a time killer for everyone to go do something, and they're like, you hit the stuff, and okay.
But then you have the band. So like when we had Alex Petropoulos on the show from Pigeons Playing Ping Pong, which I absolutely love those guys, and to have him on the show was so much fun. There was a lot of fanboying. So anybody who watched that last episode, buzz off because I didn't care. It was exciting. But the drum solo he did at Janice was purposeful. Like literally, it was like all the songs were building up to it, and we got there instead of just like da 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 drums. All right, everybody go do whatever you gotta do, and then come back. It was like it there was an ebb and flow to it that just kind of worked. So
yeah,
wow, we went way off topic, and I don't care, but everything about that.
Fine, I'm stoked for you.
I'm still freaking out about the Seminole music thing. Like that's dude, so wild.
Seminole's home, man. Like that was one I wish back in the day I was able to meet like Vinnie Paul if he was able to go there, because like that's one of the reasons I play drums in general the way I do now was studying Vinnie growing up. Big drums, 2 of everything, box sizes, all of that, and like my drums aren't that big. I'm not Vinnie Paul, so like I don't want to take his sound, but I will definitely take that look and have 2 kicks and 2 big kicks. Thank you very much.
But there's another guy who took. I don't want to downplay, and I don't want to piss off any Vinnie Paul people. It was not an overly complicated riff. Like it was not an overly but what he put into that, just
the balls on that guy,
bump.
Just
I'm like, we're just doing, and then he would throw the little fills in, and I'm like, oh, okay. Like
the dude was grooving. He hit hard. He played with purpose. He had intention. Whatever he did, it wasn't just willy nilly. He wasn't just kind of through a fill. It was like if he played it, you heard it in the back of the house. And his thing with his philosophy that I always hung on to, and I heard this when I was like 11, was you can't give 100 if you're not 100. So he'll go on tour with certain bands and see them partying all day, taking shots on stage, and then you get off stage and you've been partying all day. What do you have to celebrate? So it's always you get on stage, crystal clear, clean as a whistle. You get done playing, then you celebrate. Then you have your fun. Yeah. Which, cheeky stage beer here and there. Cool. I ain't mad about it. I love a cold beer, especially if I'm drumming. But partying beforehand, it's like you're taking away from the opportunity you could have to play better and play more. And especially the speeds that I play on stage, it's like I can't risk my hands slowing down. So
no, and I think that's a really good point to bring up, is that like you're somewhat robbing not only the crowd of the full experience, but you're robbing yourself of that experience.
Yeah, you're doing yourself a disservice.
Yeah.
And you need to hydrate. You can have that gallon a day, man. You got to drink it. Lube. Makes feel good.
I got a couple more questions. Dude, I'm excited that I get to see Marco again. So Marco Miniman's playing with the Aristocrats again.
That'll be rad.
And he's playing on my birthday.
Yes.
Again. Good. So literally in 2022, they played at Brass Mug on the 22nd of July, and it carried over. So I was like, all right. And then they announced the tour, and they're like, July 23rd, coming to Crowbar. And I was like, you guys are coming to Crowbar?
Crowbar of all places? Oh, okay.
Dude, I love Crowbar. I love the atmosphere of Crowbar.
I got history in Crowbar. Not bad history, but man, I got history in Crowbar. People can't just casually talk about that place. Like
I've seen My Children, My Bride there like probably half the times that I've seen them. But it got to the point where like Matt Hastings would like text me and be like, hey man, are you here? Like, yeah, I'm outside. And
just knowing, all right, we're at Crowbar. Yeah.
Getting to see all the different drummers that kind of went through. And I know Andrew Holzbauer went through, and he played with Impending Doom, and he played with so many other people.
He was in Oceano for a while. That was sick.
You what?
Andrew was in Oceano for a while. That
was yeah. So shout out to Andrew. I haven't talked to that guy in forever, but that dude was
my dog. I love him.
Insane. We kind of glanced over it, but this is, one of the aspects of the show, and one of the reasons I started the show with my dad is, you got a son. So let's talk about dad life. And
dude,
has he picked up drumsticks yet? Because I'm pretty sure I've seen a video of him playing. So
yeah, he got his first pair of sticks. I want to say 2-3 days into life. And for his first birthday, I got him the kids' sticks, so he could actually have like real wood drumsticks and understand how that worked. And he discovered rebound on the kitchen floor. Surprise, surprise. Now he's a happy, healthy 5-year-old. He's had a custom D-drum kit for almost 2 years. It'll be 2 years in September because they make a D1 now, which is basically just normal drums scaled down, small hardware, small cymbals, everything. It's meant for kids to learn and grow with. And, the good people over at Drum Static made him a custom drum head with Spider-Man on it. He loves the Spider-Man. So it's pretty cool. And I, anytime I have cymbals I'm not playing or something that's small enough, I'll just go put it on his kit. Cause to him, what I think is a splash, that's the greatest cymbal he's ever heard in his life. He doesn't know any different. It's just another sound to have. And I'm like, cool, here, you ain't gonna break it. Have fun. I dare you.
Dude, that's wild. That's awesome. And that's the thing, is that like I remember like you becoming a dad. Like I've got to see the whole thing.
Yeah.
And watch him, and I've seen the videos, I see the pictures, but it's do you feel like it was something he was like you were priming him for, or did you literally let him just kind of take to it and see what he did?
So I'll take it as a 50-50. And I say that because I never want to force anything on him. However, me being a drummer, I'm not drumming. And when he was like a newborn, I'm talking like first months of life, when you're getting to know each other, you have a relationship with their rhythm of how their days go. There was times I'd bounce him and he would only sleep, and he would only, we'll say, calm down and find a little bit of peace if I put on any song from Grebkestra. So Benny's second album. So he grew up with Grebkestra and Benny Greb in his system, which I get it. I imposed that on him. But he never had a problem with it. And when he was a year old, there's a song called Tricky where I'd put the minor video of Benny playing it. And as a little baby, he'd go, ba, 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 ba. And he was able to keep up with it, which like normal drummers can't do that. And I'm like, you're a year old, and yeah, just incredible. And it was always something I gave it as a suggestion, like, here's your drums. I never told him to play it. I never forced him into it, but he always had the opportunity, and he went to it. And he obviously sees me do it and knows that's what I do and how I work. So, it's cool to be like daddy, but it's also cool to know like he's good at it. Of course he has natural rhythm, but also just it's something he said. We were just jamming last night. Like he loves it. It's one of his favorite things. And I hope he sticks with it. And, maybe if he gets a guitar, sick. That means we can jam. Otherwise, it's just going to stay loud in my garage forever. And I guess that's what those are for too, right?
Yeah. I remember an interview with James Hetfield and Lars Ulrich, and they're like, oh, do your kids play any instruments? And James just goes, yeah. And he looks over at Lars, and he's like, my kid's a drummer. And I was like, yes.
Yeah, because drums look cool, dude. You look cool, and it sounds awesome.
All right. This just came to me because of that. We're going to do a hot take moment.
Oh,
what were your thoughts on the St. Anger snare? I need to know.
Do you need to know?
I do need to know. Like, that's. I feel like you don't even want to answer that was an answer in itself. I just need you to know that. Like,
where we? Yeah, we don't have time for that. I'm just going to give it a disrespectful thumbs down, and we'll move on from there. Yeah. But man, I'd rather hear Pip fart on a snare drum.
Yeah. All right. We're on the listen. other than the last two albums, Metallica's still the only, they were the first album I ever bought. I bought the Black Album. I bought it with my own money. I bought it from the Walmart in Brooksville. I won't forget it. Like, it might have been the Walmart in Spring Hill, actually, before they had the Brooksville one.
Yeah.
But I remember being so excited, and, that turned me backwards. Like, I loved that Metallica, but I was like, I want more. Then you listen to Master of Puppets and Injustice for All, and then you find Orion, which to me, Orion is still one of the best Metallica songs, hands down, that they've ever made. And
so I'll respectfully agree with you. I was a Pantera and Slayer kid growing up. Metallica did absolutely nothing for me. All my guitar player buddies listened to them. So I had Vinny and I had Dave, and I ate and I slept well. Those are my meat and potatoes.
But with that, Metallica is still the only band that I can name every album in order, the year they came out, like, and I can't even do that with Dream Theater, which how how much I love Dream Theater. And we talk about
absolutely, yeah. There's a lot of Dream Theater
behind me, and there's an Iron Maiden, there's an Eddie up here, Iron Maiden Eddie.
You have to
listen. Bruce is never going to watch this, but I literally have the Iron Maiden beer right there.
Which one? There's like 6 now. They just keep doing it.
The Trooper. Dude, it's a good beer.
Yeah. No, Trooper was great.
And I love the beer. And I was like, because Metallica's blackened whiskey. Oh God, that was bad. It's very bad.
Wasn't good because their name was on it. I wasn't going to drink it, but knowing a band has a whiskey, I'm like, this. They're all sober. They have nothing to do with it. Like, no, it's marketing. I'm good. I drink real whiskey, not gimmicky whiskey.
Yeah, I had to try it because I liked it. But it was the gimmicky. They were like, oh, we listened to these tracks while we made this. And I went, but it doesn't taste any different. So you just want me to buy like 18 bottles that have different numbers on them. Cool. But Metallica's always got to hold that place. But when my dad gave me scenes from a memory.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, it was like, I'm not sure. I'm like, he was a drummer, and you mentioned Kiss. Like I have a signed picture from Eric Singer somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Billy Cobham, Chad Smith, Marco Miniman, Greg Bissonette, Akira Jimbo, Virgil Zanotti, Chad Smith, like Derek Roddy. We go through that list. And it's so funny because to this day, scenes from start to finish is just.
Oh, that's art.
Everything you want.
Beauty. Yeah.
It's everything you want. Especially when you actually listen to the last song all the way to the end and it freaks you out. But I love the Daily Doug. I don't know if you've ever seen him.
The Daily Doug? I'm unfamiliar.
Oh man, dude. So this guy, he's a like classically trained, like composer, like musician kind of person. And he listens and he'll break down and be like, okay, that's an E, that's an B. Okay, so now the story's going, and he like explains everything as it's going on. And I'm just like, but watching him hear some of the drum beats, he's like, yeah. I like this is great.
It's like a kid getting stoked about a show coming on, but like you hear a riff and like it doesn't matter how old you are when you get stoked, especially with drums. You know, like all the receptors are going off, and you're like, yeah.
I think what's funny is that like the newest one and oldest one for that is When Eagles Dare by Iron Maiden. Like that fill.
Yep.
And I just, but again, do you know where I heard that first? On that In Constant Motion DVD when he plays it with Bittner. Like,
yeah. He did that one. Oh God, there's so many nights when he did the double kit with somebody else, and like, oh man, somebody did Hot for Teacher. I feel like it was Charlie. Might have been Charlie Benante. Somebody did Hot for Teacher.
Charlie Benante. It was Charlie Benante, Jason Bittner, and Richard Christie, which was probably the most. I think
that was so sick.
Was doing Hot for Teacher, and you're like, whoa.
Dude, that was tight. I was very stoked to see Richard Christie sit down. Everyone's, oh, from the Howard Stern show. No, Death. He's from Death.
But that's the thing. Nobody knew that. So they got up there and they're like, oh, Howard Stern show. Oh, this guy can play.
He's got foots. He's got goddamn foots.
So I'm going to tell you the final story of this. So what I was looking at, so you getting to go to NAMM, like I want us to try and be able to go. Like,
I love NAMM, man.
As part of the podcast, I think that'd be kind of cool. But really, just go to NAMM and just get to see everything that's going on and
sensory overload,
have that experience. But there were two people you thanked in your posts, and I'm going to go back to your post to point that out so that I don't say the wrong people.
Sure.
You thanked two people. You thanked D-Drums, and then you thanked Mike Petrak.
I did, yeah.
So I shot Mike's wedding.
Nice. I love Mike. Yeah, he's my artist rep with D-Drum. And also the drummer of an incredible band. If you all have the opportunity, please go look up Virulence, I think is how you pronounce it. I'm butchering it. Mike, I'm sorry.
I don't think I've talked to him since it's been a while. So
dude, he's a lefty blast guy. I love Mike. Mike's hilarious. That's a dude, sit down, have some Mexican food, and just laugh. Like, just good fella. So that was so funny when I saw that, because I was like, oh wait, so we went, my fiance and his wife are friends, and we were there as guests, and the photographer didn't show up, and they were like, hey, you got your clickety there, brother? I was like, I guess I can. Why not? And for the sake of the show, we did something before the show, and I just want to see how excited you get when I do this again. But that should have been up the whole time. What are you doing? We talked about this before, but finding the video that basically said that the reason Goldberg, Hogan, Nash, and Raven were on there is because one of the guys was a fan of Raven, and he just felt like putting him on the cover. Let her rip, man. So I had to throw that in there. So, take a moment now. Like, every time I see a video of you, you're in somebody's studio, you're talking about a new sponsor, you're talking about somebody protecting your drums. Like, talk about the people that make your day-to-day happen. Besides the fact that you work at a brewery that makes some delicious beer. Do love good beer. Day to day, I got to thank my son, because that dude keeps me happy, right? He rules. But when it comes to music, I've got my best friend, Don. I love him. Otis Archer. I was working with him on a solo project, and now he's working with me in a band called Casket. So I'm very excited about that. Mike at D-Drum. Amazing. It spoils me for no reason. Absolutely no reason. I'm not in Cannibal Corpse, and he treats me like I am, and I'm very grateful for that. John Spinelli and all the brothers at Spinelli Drums. It's just another family, and some of the greatest boutique free-floating anything you'll ever hear in your life. Definitely check them out if you're unfamiliar. Zed over at Axis Pedals. Just my feet know nothing else, and when I do play something else, I'm like, whose pedals is this? This isn't mine. What's this for? We got Philip the homie over at Los Cabos, makes amazing drumsticks. That's another brand everyone needs to be familiar with. They make red hickory sticks. I'm just infatuated with them. All the family over at Gator, Rick, Dan, Gary, everybody. Dude, Gator cases, like, I've been using those coming up on 10 years now, but these new Icon series, I just slapped a little video together on my Instagram from my garage. I'm stoked. Think about like soft shell cases. It's like putting your drums in a backpack, but these you can stack. They have integrity. It's like when your brain thinks about that soft shell, like what do you call a gig bag? It's a case. It's just not like you can't knock on it and hear it, but you drop your drum and you're still gonna freak out because you dropped it. It doesn't matter. We're all gonna freak out. Yeah, you're still gonna like your heart's gonna stop, but it's still gonna protect it. So I'm pretty stoked about that. Graham over at Mexonics, they do hardware and accessories. It's really just my stick holder. I don't play without it. I got to have it. And then if you see the spin nuts on my cymbals, you're like, what are those? Go to maxonics.com. It's 2 X's.
I'll put a link in the bio, guys.
Yeah. Click the link below and like whatever Matt's doing all the time. Subscribe, bell,
dude, I don't know how people do it because I'll be like, over here. No, it's over. Oh, okay. I can't do that.
Click the bell.
You think after 4 years and now a combined 83 episodes of podcasting, I'd be like, I know what to do. No, I don't. Yeah. And I hope you guys enjoy this because honestly, it's just fun. That's what this is. So I'm going to unofficially plug Woody's here because they're one of the newer companies that made it. And I really like sticks.
They make sticks? I'm unfamiliar.
So this is probably one of the first batches. So when they did hey, this is our first batch. It's a 5B, but it's so tiny. Like it's just the weight is nice. You probably break them because I can feel it already. Like if you probably could.
I trust you. It's probably gonna happen.
Yeah. Stubforge is a company I like to shout out. Again, we're not getting paid by any of these guys, but Stubforge. Nowadays, you don't get concert tickets. You're not getting a physical ticket. You're not getting that memento that you want. And I found this company, and you basically just plug in all the information, and they will print the ticket for you.
Cool. Oh, that's awesome.
And dude, when they come in, I had Alex from Pigeons Playing Ping Pong sign it. I had Windrose sign my tickets. Bands kind of lose their mind when they see a physical ticket. And then like for some of the bands, like I bring extra for the band. So like, if I get to meet the band, I'm like, you guys just give these out to people. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Capstan, when I got to see them, we've got to see them a few times. Finding out I went to high school with the drummer was pretty mind-blowing, knowing that we didn't know that.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, here's the tickets from when we came in February. Here's the tickets when we came in November. And here's the tickets for now. And I'm like, these are yours. And the lead singer was almost in tears. He's like, really? Like, these are for us? And I was like, yeah. So it was pretty cool. I just hit my microphone because I decided to put it in a new place.
You're excited. Good. It needs a little punishment every now and then.
Tales of a Concert Junkie. I absolutely love these guys. All the shirts they have, just supporting music and mental health. And that to me is like,
that's huge. That's very, very important.
The one thing, like, if I have the worst day of my life, just the worst day, everything's going wrong. All I have to do is listen to Dream Theater's Stream of Consciousness live at Budokan.
Oh, Budokan, baby. Yes.
10 minutes and 54 seconds of just pure magic. By the end of the song, I'm good. Like, nothing else matters.
There he is. There he is.
But that's the beautiful thing is that, going on walks, listening in the car, just driving around and something. Just blowing you away. So, on that note, man.
Ooh, but also one more thing I did forget. I got to shout out Matt at Ice Cream Factory Studios. I do a lot of work with that guy. I'm trying to be in there as much as humanly possible. Got a couple drum videos coming out that I recorded over there. But yeah, Ice Cream Factory Studios. I love being there. Love hanging out with Matt. Just dude's very good at what he does. So that was one last one I had to throw in there.
Texas is called Ice Cream Factory.
Started off in Ohio, so it used to be an actual ice cream factory, and then he moved here and kept the name because he's known as ICF Matt, but it's fun to say. Ice Cream Factory changed my life, dude.
You just can't tell your kid we're going to Ice Cream Factory. Really? No, the studio.
Because you get in and he's like, it smells like coffee. Where's the ice cream? I'm like, you tell me. Oh, there's drums. Hit the drums.
Well, dude, thank you so much for this. It was so much fun. Like, just the fact that like we've now known each other a decade and we still learn things while on the air. It's still
you're welcome, everybody.
So, dude, it was an absolute pleasure. Jordan's Beard on Instagram, just doing everything you can. Yeah. You put me to shame on this one. Like, usually, like, I can beat the mustache guys when I've got the beard, but
yeah,
not that. When your Instagram handle is Jordan's Beard, like, you've kind of got me beat. So, on behalf of myself, the DrumQuig Podcast, dude, thank you so much for coming on, and have a great night.
Thank you. You too. Cheers.
Hey guys, if you enjoyed the show, please like, share, and subscribe to the DrumQuig Podcast. Thank you so much.